Brian starts the movie by watching a basketball game. He looks up to a player on the Thunder team named Kevin Durant. Brian was blown away by Kevin's way of playing. Also, Kevin always gets a lot of points in every game. When Brian saw Kevin doing the dunks, he told himself that he could do them too. Brian was so excited to try dunks that he went to his side of the house, but it wasn't as easy as he thought it would be. Several times, he lost the ball. Even Brian's brother secretly recorded him playing basketball. Kevin and his manager Alan will go home when the game is over. Kevin has been waiting for his fans to ask him for autographs and pictures since he played very well at school that night, as usual. Mitch is a close friend of Brian's. While they were talking, a girl walked by and caught her eye and smiled. This girl's name is Isabel, and she just started at the school. During lunch in the school cafeteria, Brian told Mitch that he would first try to get to know Isabel. Mitch told Brian not to get to know the girl, since Brian was known as a nerd boy at that school. Brian says that Isabel, on the other hand, is a new kid who doesn't know anything about him. Brian went to where Isabel was. Brian was getting ready to meet Isabel. A boy named Connor suddenly showed a video of Brian, who was about to jump on a tram and dunk like Kevin Durant. But it looks like it was his feet, not the ball, that went into the ring, so Brian was able to catch up with it. Everyone who watched the video laughed at Brian and made fun of him. So, Brian didn't say hello to Isabel. Everyone, look at this. Brian sat on the bed and thought about his future. Brian's dad comes to him all of a sudden because he knows his son is having a bad time. So, Brian's dad wanted to cheer him up by taking him to a live Kevin Durant game. Brian and his dad then went to the game to watch it. When the game was stopped, the MC told the crowd to get out their tickets. There is a number on the ticket. If the number is called, the person with the ticket will go down to shoot. The MC said the number, and it turned out to be the ticket number for Brian's dad. His father quickly stood up and put Brian's hand up. His dad said it belonged to Brian. Brian was, of course, very happy, and he went straight to the court. The MC told Brian that if he got into the ball, he would get $20,000 US. In those days, Connor was also watching, as it turned out. Connor was ready with his camera to take a picture of Brian, of course. Brian then took the shot. The ball didn't go in, though, and instead hit the mascot, making it fall with a tired face. Brian got up and left the. Unexpectedly, Kevin Durant is real, it turns out. Kevin writes his name on the ball, and then he gives it to Brian. Kevin said that the next time he would be there. Brian then told Kevin that he wished he had as much talent as him. Kevin also said that he hoped to show Brian how talented he was when he gave Brian the ball. Kevin shows that hard work is more important than talent. At that moment, Brian could feel Kevin's energy moving toward him. When Brian woke up from his nap, the radio told him that the Thunder team had lost badly during the. After getting out of bed, he went right to the bathroom. Things start to go wrong. Brian took off his clothes and put them in the dirty clothes basket outside the bathroom when he went into the bathroom. He hits the basket every time. Brian was doing a school project when his teacher asked to take the liver. Brian picked up the organ and did a spin move without even realizing it. When his best friend saw that Brian could do that, he was amazed. Brian also thought it was odd. Brian and Mitch go to the night market after work. When Brian got there, he saw Isabel. Next to her, Connor was trying to hit a basketball for a prize, but he couldn't make a single one go in. Connor's was funny to Brian and his best friend. Failed, irritated. Then, Connor told Brian to try shooting the ball. Brian and Mitch turned to go, but Brian reportedly turned around right away, threw the ball, and it went in. Because Connor thought it was just a he gave the ball back to Brian. The ball went in again when Brian threw it again. Connor took the ball back for the third time and went back in. This made Connor mad, so he walked away. Brian got a big pandial and gave it to Isabel. Brian and Isabel shook hands and got to know each other. They left with the pandial in their hands. Kevin Durant once practiced based on the results of his work. It looks like he has not been able to get into the. Kevin's skills seem to go away, and at the same time, Brian is training at home and his skills are very different from what they were before, thanks to all the balls he throws and all the techniques he hadn't mastered before. Now, he did it without much trouble while the Eagles were practicing. The coach asked Brian why he was wearing the uniform when he showed up. Brian said that he would try again to join the team. He was immediately turned down by his coach, but Brian tried to show him that his current skills were good enough. Brian walked right onto the field without permission, took the ball from Connor's hands, and then played one-on-one. Brian shows how well he plays. Everyone there was amazed and shocked. They saw that Brian had different skills. Only Connor's face showed that he was upset. The coach and his assistant stepped in right away to play against Brian. Even though the coach, assistant coach, and Connor all tried to stop Brian, it was easy for him to do so. The coach was blown away by how good Brian was. The first match for Brian. He is now an important member of the Eagles team. Even though Brian was in the open spot, Connor never wanted to pass the ball to him. The coach got upset and told Connor that if he doesn't pass the ball to Brian, Connor will be replaced. After that, Connor always gave the ball to Brian. Brian started to show what he could do when he played basketball. Brian was, of course, a star right away. The day after, while Brian was in school, he became more and more well known. At every basketball game, everyone wants to be close to him. Brian was the one who helped get the highest score. When the Eagles won, Brian was really the one who took care of everything. On the other hand, Brian is playing better than Kevin Durant, who is playing worse. The news said that Kevin's game was bad. The manager did everything he could to get Kevin's spirit back. One of the things he did was bring his mother, who brought chicken soup from Kevin's grandmother. Brian and Isabel, on the other hand, are getting closer. They even played cards together while Kevin was filming a shoe commercial. Kevin always falls and misses the ball when doing basketball scenes with shoes that will be advertised. The scenes where Kevin failed started to bother the director. The basketball as well. Kevin's throw hit the director. The director finally stopped shooting, walked away, and told Alan that Kevin was a total letdown. Alan, who was in his room, was reading about Kevin in a magazine. Then, while Alan was watching TV, different shows on another channel showed the host saying bad things about Kevin. People who talk about basketball talk about how Kevin Durant is getting worse. Alan changes the channel on the TV and sees a news story about a local player who could be the next due. Alan wanted to know what was going on. The news anchor said that the boy was the one who got shot a few weeks ago at a Thunder game. The boy must have taken Kevin Durant's talent, said other news. Alan started watching Kevin and Brian's videos to see how they played, and it turned out that Brian really plays like Kevin. Then, one time, Alan went to Brian's basketball game to watch him play. Alan was shocked and amazed to see what Brian had done. Alan goes straight to Kevin after seeing Brian's game and says he knows where Kevin's skills have gone. Someone took it, and Brian, the kid who shot at the Thunder game, was the one who did it. Alan said before Brian met Kevin, "The way Brian plays is really bad." Alan told Kevin something that couldn't be true, so Kevin didn't believe him. Kevin likes what Alan did, but if Alan has those kinds of thoughts, Kevin says Alan will be fired. Brian and Isabel were spending time together. Alan came in while they were talking and got in the way. When Alan came in, Brian and Isabel didn't seem happy, but that changed when Alan said he was Kevin Durant's manager. The next day, Alan and Kevin came to Brian's school, which made him very happy. Alan had said before that they would do a community outreach program for poor schools, so Kevin thought it was strange. However, it turns out that Alan was just using Kevin's talent to get him to change his mind and believe what he said. Alan and Kevin walked into Brian's classroom. Alan then said that they were doing a program to reach out to the community because there was a math class going on and a question was written on the blackboard. Alan asked Brian right away to step up and answer the question. Kevin said that the boy who shot during the Thunder game was the one who did it, but Alan acted like he didn't know. Brian did it. Then, Kevin said hello to Brian. Alan grabbed Kevin's and Brian's hands right away and turned them around. Alan hopes that Kevin's talent will return if this happens. Alan even tried to grab Kevin's hand and swing him around so they could high-five each other. Alan told Kevin to throw the paper away, but Kevin's talent hasn't come back yet. Then Alan asked Kevin and Brian to hang out. When Kevin and Brian were in the cafeteria, all the other kids stopped what they were doing to watch them. Alan pulled on Kevin's hand to get him to hold Brian's body. "Even when I was going home," Alan said that they'd give Team Eagles free boots. Alan took a picture with Brian after giving the shoes to him. Here, Alan is trying hard to get Kevin's powers back. Alan asks Kevin how he feels around Brian on the way home. Alan wanted to know if Kevin had changed in any way. Alan makes Kevin look upset and angry. Kevin then said that he knew everyone was laughing at his game, but Alan's current efforts were useless. Brian is playing this time, and he looks very sure of himself. Not only that, but Brian started acting selfishly by not passing the ball to Connor and his teammate. At the same time, Kevin is also competing in other places. But Kevin's game is just as bad as the last one. People who talk about sports say that the Thunder team is about to lose. Kevin Durant's career is over because of this. Brian and his friends are having a good time there. Brian's haughty behavior started to make Isabel feel bad. Isabel got up and left right away. Brian then ran after her and asked what was wrong. Then Isabel asked him to talk more. But before they could talk, Brian went to get picked up by his friends right away, and Isabella left the place right away. On the other hand, Mitch called Brian to remind him that they were going to an event while he was washing a t-shirt with Brian's face on it. But Brian was too busy to go out with, it seems. Mitch, Brian, and his friends are having a good time when they hear that Brian's parents are on their way. The kids who were there ran away, but Alan was the one who was there. He says Brian needs to bring Kevin Durant's talent back. Brian didn't understand what Alan said. Later, Alan asked Brian if he thought all of this was strange, like how Brian's talent had changed from before. Alan asked how many points most people got. Brian before and after he met Kevin. Brian said that he had never been on the team before, but now he has 48 points from a game. Alan told me that was true. Kevin had never lost a point before, but now he couldn't get a single point. Alan then said that Brian's current skills were not his Oklahoma. If the Thunder team loses, people who like Team Thunder and Kevin will be sad. The Eagles coach is giving a speech on the basketball court after saying that Alan left. For the first time, they will get ready for the playoffs. When each player is called here one by one, Brian meets Isabel. The girl said that maybe they will both go back after the season is over. Brian then says that Isabel began to notice him because of the basket. Isabel said that she had been watching Brian ever since he walked down the hall for the first time. At that moment, Brian was talking to Mitch by his locker. Clearly, it has nothing to do with the basketball game outside. Brian kept hearing calls from the coach and the fans. Isabel told him he had to go. When it was over, Brian asked the coach how well he was doing on the team, but the coach didn't answer and told Brian to focus because he was already there. The next day, Brian was riding his bike when he stopped to look at a Kevin Durant poster. Looking at the sign, then Brian called Alan and asked him to come get him. Alan and Brian went to where Kevin was working out. Kevin asks Brian why he came, and Brian says it was because he wanted to return Kevin's talent. Kevin then asked Alan if he was the one who told Brian to believe that nonsense. But Alan pushed Brian right away to start showing what he could do. Alan asked Brian to show Kevin the normal moves. Even Brian did things that only Kevin Durant could do. Kevin was stunned while making that move. Alan told Kevin and Brian to hold the ball together and repeat what they had said before. Kevin gave the ball to show if it had worked or not. Alan told them to shoot, but it turned out that Wade wasn't good enough. Several things were tried to get Kevin's power back, but none of them worked. Brian said later that he didn't mean to do it, and Kevin gets that. Kevin says that he might have to start from scratch. Kevin then left. Then Brian went to Isabel's house. Brian says he's sorry and that his skills have been switched with Kevin Durant's. Brian shows Isabel the video. He manages to persuade him, but when Brian watched the video again, he saw that when he threw the ball, it hit the mascot on the head so hard that he passed out. This is what makes his talent swapped. Brian rode his bike quickly to the place where Kevin was competing. In those days, the Thunder team had a lot less points than the other team. Brian, who was in a hurry, rode his bike in at the end of the first half. Brian even ran across the court, which made the Thunder mascot chase him. Brian calls Kevin and tells him that he needs to use the ball to get rid of the mascot named Rumble, which was chasing Brian. Brian then throws the ball at Rumble until it falls. Then they hold the ball together and say what they just said backwards. When the second half started out of the blue, there was a flow of energy. Kevin's skill came back again. He scored a lot of points right away, and the Thunder team finally won. While Brian is making a shot, he trains at home. The ball doesn't go in, and when Brian was at school, Mitch saw him coming but didn't look at him because he felt like his best friend was getting farther away. Brian went up to Mitch to talk to him, but Mitch didn't pay attention to him. Brian says, "I know what I'm doing is annoying." Mitch couldn't stay mad at his best friend for very long. They made up right away. Brian's group is getting ready to play. Brian looked uninspired because he knew before the game started that he would play badly. Brian made a lot of mistakes, so he stopped scoring. Then the coach called a timeout. Brian also asked to just sit on the bench, but his coach said no because Brian was an important part of their team's win. Kevin Durant and Alan came to watch in the middle of the game. Brian gets excited when Kevin gives him the code. Again, Brian and his friends get together and talk about the plans we'll use. Even though Brian can't hit the ball, he can still grab it and pass it if everyone works together. In the last 15 seconds, the Eagles team started to score a lot of points. When Brian has the ball, it looks like he's not sure if he wants to take a shot. Since there was no more time to pass, he finally took a three-point shot, which surprisingly went in. The Eagles were able to win in the end. The crowd all cheered. Then Brian gave a salute. Kevin Durant,